recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Welcome to Machino Music Music, the show that puts some music in Machino music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music Music, it's my favorite Saturday Night Live host and musical guest, the host that performed double duty. Good afternoon, everybody. My favorite Saturday Night Live hosts slash musical guests, those musical guests who maybe are funny enough, talented enough, just entertaining enough, good enough, smart enough, and doggone it, people like them. Stuart Smalley, there's a deep cut for you.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Hello, I'm Stuart Smalley.
But those musical guests maybe have that little something extra. They get to host the show, pull double duty. That's what we're talking about here today. Around this time last year, I did my favorite just Saturday Night Live musical guests. But these are those musical guests that also hosted the show. Now, it is the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, the 50th season, the 50th year of this show. Can you believe that? Now, say what you will about Saturday Night Live. I mean, comedy is subjective. I mean, people don't think I'm funny. So, but aside from the comedy, what other show is there like Saturday Night Live? The music is probably one thing you can all come together on. Most people can agree on kind of the music of Saturday Night Live. Because, music is, it's subjective as well, but not as subjective as comedy. We can all sort of come together on music, so that's why it's good to just, talk about the music of Saturday Night Live. But, comedy, maybe it's woke garbage. I can't believe that show's already 50 years old. Is Dana Carvey still on? It was only funny in the 70s. Everybody keeps on, whatever year the show, when they first started watching, that was the best year. I still watch the show. I'm still a fan of Saturday Night Live. But today we're talking about those double duty host musical guests. So let's get right into it. These are not ranked in any particular way. I'm just kind of they're just numbered. I'm just going to talk about them. So starting at number 10, from December 7th, 1991, MC Hammer. This was a big deal, okay? I mean, I was a big MC Hammer fan in the 90s. I was in 3rd grade. I mean, that was kid rap. That was the hip-hop I liked. I mean, there's still some hip-hop out there now that I still really like. But I don't know, something about that 90s hip-hop. Still a lot of leftover crap from the 80s, so it's like very clean. It's not trying to say anything. It's not they started getting into gangster rap later in the 90s. Some of that was cool, but give me that just clean MC Hammer, rappity rap. I'm cool with that. How white did I just sound there? But yeah, MC Hammer hosts Saturday Night Live. And I remember it was during the Macaulay Culkin episode, thinking, wouldn't it be great if MC Hammer was a musical guest? And then, wouldn't you know it, that card, that announcement that used to come up saying that he's going to be the musical guest. And not only is he a musical guest, he's hosting too. This was great. And he actually did really well in the sketches. Hammer was fluffs flying around. Hammer was a great performer. He opened the show with a little monologue. He was promoting the Addams Family movie at the time, which is kind of not his finest hour. But, the movies are better than I remember them being. But still, that theme song was just bad. Because a lot of the time, it's like leftover crap from the 80s, so every single movie had to have a theme song. So this is 1991. He was also sort of in a feud with Michael Jackson at the time. I don't really remember this. But it was like what the specifics were of it, if they're actually in a feud. But it was like this whole thing, like going to have a dance challenge, and Chris Rock came out dressed as Michael Jackson, and they had like a dance challenge. But then Hammer just did this little monologue, and then he goes and sings Too Legit to Quit right in the middle of the monologue. First time I'd ever seen a musical guest that just like, hey, I'm going to open the show the how I know how to open something best. I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to do a song. So that was really cool. Promoting the Too Legit to Quit album at the time. Moment in history, moment in time, MC Hammer hosting Saturday Night Live. All right, next up, from April 2nd, 2011, Elton John. He had been a musical guest before, like the early 80s. I think during the Dick Ebersol years, maybe Gene Domanian, but Lorne Michaels wasn't there. Sometime in the early 80s. But here he is, hosting the show, and he's a musical guest. I don't know what music he was promoting at the time. I think he probably must have done some of his big hits on the show. Because I don't know if he's really had anything new. I should have looked this up, but I didn't. I'm just thinking about how he was as a host. Not bad. He had a lot of fun. It was just like a big deal. I remember around the same time Mick Jagger hosted the show, and that was kind of a big deal. Hey, Mick Jagger's hosting. He's been musical guest a bunch of times. He's made guest appearances, and he wasn't very good. Elton John was, really good. He's able to laugh at himself. There's a gay cowboy sketch that was a lot of fun. So able to laugh at himself. Monologue was a lot of fun. Yeah. Also got a Tom Hanks guest appearance playing Michael Caine. That was really funny. So yeah, I really liked that episode. All right, next up from November 16th, 2013. Another one I remember thinking, I wonder if this is going to happen. Lady Gaga. Katy Perry had hosted the show. Wasn't a musical guest at the same show. She'd been a musical guest a bunch of times. But she had hosted the show, and I remember thinking during the Katy Perry show, because Katy Perry was really good, thinking, will Lady Gaga host the show? That would be great. She'd been musical guest before, and now here she is doing double duty. She was great. My favorite sketch, I think, on the episode was where she sort of like envisioning herself as an old lady. And she's still Lady Gaga. She's still got it. She's still a queen. It's so great.
Can't read my, no, he can't read my poker face. Poker face.
There's a little cute sketch, and it's just, and Lady Gaga, one of my heroes. I love Lady Gaga. So it's great to see her hosting Saturday Night Live. And she's able to laugh at herself. Another one that's just able to have a good time and just laughing. Yeah, I wear crazy outfits. Yeah, I'm a bit eccentric. Let's have fun with that. So she was great. Love Lady Gaga. She can do no wrong. Another one, this actually is just very recently, another November 16th. This is November 16th, 2024. Last year, Charlie XCX. This was a big one. When I first heard this announced, like, wow, I just gotten my 2 rescue cats, one of which I named after Charlie XCX. So, of course, I'm a big Charlie XCX fan. The Brat album's really hot. Been listening to that during the summer. Like, okay, here we go. She's now hosting Saturday Night Live. She's been musical guest a couple times before. Now here she is doing double duty. And she was great. Music performances are really fun, but she was really good in the sketches. I think it's that British sense of humor. She just gets it. She's having a lot of fun. There was a screen test sketch. We're going to screen like different actors, different performers trying out for the movie Wicked, big hit from 2024. And Charlie XCX did a really funny impression of Adele.
Wicked. Oh my God, I said the name of the bloody movie. Shut up, that's funny.
I would love to see some more Charlie XCX on Saturday Night Live. So, take a Charlie XCX. Next up, from May 13th, 2000. And also, February 2nd, 2002, Britney Spears. She did double duty twice. The first episode, she was promoting Oops, I Did It Again. Got a great performance of that. There's also a really funny sketch where it's like a dancer audition. This is Chris Parnell and Chris Kattan auditioning to be Britney Spears' backup dancers. That was a really funny sketch. She also did a Barbie's Dream House sketch, which I believe was on the 2002 appearance. She played Skipper. That happened. Britney Spears played Skipper.
Can I have the keys to the vet? I'm going out.
That would have been great if that happened in the Barbie movie. I don't think we got a Skipper in the Barbie movie. But it would have been great if it was Britney Spears. But it got it happened. It happened at some point in time. Britney Spears playing Skipper in the Barbie universe. There's also an Astronaut Jones sketch. Tracy Morgan is Astronaut Jones character, which is just an excuse for him to do like the same joke. Every sketch is the same joke.
Right. What do you say to that, brave earthling?
Well, why don't you drop out of that green jumpsuit and show me that fat ass?
What's so great about Britney Spears hosting, she was up for anything. She was able to laugh at herself, and because there was so much going on about her at the time, just able to make fun of herself. She's really up for everything. So yeah, Britney Spears was a great host, and not surprising why they had her back a couple of times to do it. All right, next up, from May 7th, 1983, I Had Just Been Born. Just a couple months earlier. But Stevie Wonder hosting the show. This was great. When I saw this in reruns, it just goes to show what a great sport Stevie Wonder is. How talented this guy is. I mean, musical genius, but he's able to laugh at himself, have a good time. There has never been anybody on the show like Stevie Wonder, like just coming on and just saying, yeah, make all the blind jokes you want. It's so funny. Like, there's this one sketch where it's for a new camera, it's a commercial parody for a new camera. That's so easy to use, even Stevie Wonder can use it. And he's playing tennis, the Joe Piscopo playing a famous tennis star. And of course, he's taking the picture. All the pictures are garbage. And he did a great performance of Overjoyed, which is just a showstopper. One of my favorite Stevie Wonder songs, and it's because of that performance. Just love that. So good. Stevie Wonder from May 7th, 1983. All right, next up, from February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1981, Debbie Harry. The great Debbie Harry. I love Debbie Harry. If you're watching the show, you know I love Blondie, one of my all-time favorite bands. Here's Debbie Harry hosting the show. And now these were the bad years. This was like the early, it was like, Gene Domani. I think Dick Ebersol was just sort of starting around this time. They're not really getting like quality hosts at this point. Because Saturday Night Live's like in the toilet. Eddie Murphy hasn't quite blown up yet to, start attracting some bigger stars. Like, hey, Saturday Night Live is hip and cool again. So, it's kind of not, the best time for the show. But we got Debbie Harry hosting. You know what? She was pretty good in the sketches. It's a lot of fun in the sketches. The opening monologue, she comes out wearing a tuxedo. It's really cool. Debbie could rock a tuxedo. She could wear a paper bag and look phenomenal. And Eddie Murphy comes out dressed as Cupid. Wow, Eddie Murphy was just so talented. One of the greatest cast members of all time. It's great that he's back on good terms with the show, too. We're going to see him at the 50th anniversary. For sure. You just know that's going to happen. But yeah, Debbie was really good in the sketches. She just started kind of just like break into movies around the time. So a couple years later, she'd be in Videodrome. So she was starting to break into acting. What's really cool about the musical performances, there's also a special guest of the first ever hip-hop performance on network television. Some extra musical guests on this show. It was Funky 4 plus one more. And yeah, it was the first ever hip-hop performance on national television. It's really cool. Also appearing with Debbie in her musical performances. She was promoting one of her solo albums at the time. But we got Chris Stein and Clem Burke. That's like half of Blondie. Actually, those are the only 3 members still of the original band around today. So that's essentially Blondie. So Blondie is on this episode. They're just not playing Blondie songs. They're playing Debbie Harry solo songs. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's great. Debbie Harry hosting the show, and also essentially Blondie is the musical guest. So yeah, I dig it. Debbie Harry had to be on here as one of my favorites. Next up, from October 21st, 1978. The man who's my guardian angel, always on my shoulder right back there, Frank Zappa. Now this is a notoriously bad show. It's considered one of the worst episodes ever. He's considered one of the worst hosts to ever host a show because, you know, kind of his ego kind of got in the way. You know, even though he was a fan of the show, he still kind of came on and just, you know, kind of made a mockery out of the whole thing. Which, you know, I gotta say, as a big Frank Zappa fan, I love that. I love that he just did not give a crap and just did not care. And just did not take the show seriously. And read the cue cards like he's reading cue cards. I love that. I think he really had to be a Frank Zappa fan. Actually, I'm more like a newer Frank Zappa fan to appreciate that show now. Because when I saw that, like I was just really starting to get into Frank Zappa. And, oh, he hosted Saturday Night Live. I got to find this episode. Eventually I will see it on a rerun and then see the full show when they released the DVDs of the first 5 years. And it's one of my favorite episodes ever. Just, you know, as like a, you know, it's like I said, like I'm getting into Frank Zappa later, you just appreciate it so much more. The musical performances are great, but I just love seeing him in the sketches, just not giving a crap, ruining the sketches basically. Yeah, I love him. So yeah, Frank Zappa, I thought was a pretty good host. And they gave him some fanfare, actually. At the opening, John Belushi playing Fred Silverman, who was the head of NBC at the time, doing his Fred Silverman impression. They're like hyping up Zappa like he's the new face of NBC. So they were giving him some fanfare, and then, of course, that took a shit. But yeah, so yeah, dig the show. So let's move on. All right, we're in the top 2, everybody. Not that these are ranked, but you gotta hype it up. Also from the 4th season, October 7th, 1978, the Rolling Stones. Now, this was mainly them as a musical guest, because they didn't do a monologue. The mayor of New York at the time, Ed Koch, did the monologue. Also, John Belushi was hot off of National Lampoon's Animal House, so he appeared in the monologue. He was becoming a bigger star. He would be gone by the end of the season. But that was the monologue, not the Rolling Stones. But they did appear in some sketches, and they were technically the host of the show. Mick Jagger was in a Tom Snyder sketch, and Ronnie Wood and Charlie Watts were in the Olympia restaurant, the Cheeseburger sketch. John Belushi's classic character, written by Don Novello, that great sketch. So that's pretty much the appearance for the Rolling Stones. But that musical performance, man, that's what got me into the Rolling Stones, was that musical performance. Their performance of Beast of Burden. I talked about that before. It's my favorite Saturday Night Live musical performance ever, I think. Wow. And when Lorraine Newman announces the Rolling Stones, the roof blows off the dump. What an ovation they got. So yeah, Rolling Stones had to be on here. But what is my number one? This pretty much, I think, would be my number one, even if I was actually ranking these. Paul Simon. Just because he did it so many times. One of the first 5-timers inducted into the 5-timers club. So the first time he hosted was October 18th, 1975. Also November 20th, 1976. And also May 10th, 1986. And December 19th, 1987. Those are the times he did double duty. Although on the I believe it's the 1986 episode, Linda Ronstadt was also there. The great Linda Ronstadt was actually a musical guest, but Paul performs with her, so he's kind of doing the double duty, but mainly just appearing in the sketches on that one. But he'd been musical guest so many other times, just like in later years. But he was a friend of the show. He was a friend of Lorne Michaels. So he was one of the very first hosts. Hosted the second episode of Saturday Night Live. And if it all had gone to hell with the very first episode, as I don't know how accurate this is in the Saturday Night movie, fantastic movie, one of the best movies, one of my favorite movies of 2024. The Jason Reitman Saturday Night movie. There's a scene where they're saying, well, why don't we just scrap this and come back next week, just blow them all away with the Paul Simon episode. So if that had all gone to hell, Paul Simon could have been the first ever host of Saturday Night Live, not George Carlin. But what's interesting about this Paul Simon, the very first time he hosted, October 18th, 1975, this is when they didn't know what Saturday Night Live was ever going to be. They didn't know what this show was yet. Because even the first episode, especially the second episode, it's like a music show. They had a whole Simon and Garfunkel reunion, which was a massive deal. So the whole show was basically built around this whole thing, and critics were reviewing the show like, oh, this is great. This Saturday Night Live, we got a Simon and Garfunkel reunion. Oh, I want to see more of this. Then it starts becoming much more of like a comedy variety show. And it's like, well, the comedy's not funny. What's this? They're doing drug jokes. They're doing Nixon jokes. They're doing all these, the political humor. They're satirizing the state. What is this? This isn't funny. So people were expecting Saturday Night Live to be like the Midnight Special. We already had the Midnight Special. We needed something else. But yeah, so great. Paul Simon is just a great, great host. Just totally gets it. And always fun when he hosted. Of course, the November 20th episode of 1976 was the Thanksgiving episode, classic. He comes out dressed in a giant turkey costume, singing Still Crazy After All These Years. Classic moment. George Harrison also appeared on that episode. You got George Harrison and Paul Simon. I've talked about that before. Oh, so good. So yeah, big fan of Saturday Night Live and these musical guests. And when they pull double duty, that makes it just a little extra special. There's going to be a Saturday Night Live musical special produced by Questlove of The Roots. That's going to be airing pretty soon. I got an itch. And it's, all this stuff for the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. And if you're a Saturday Night Live fan, if you're going to be tuning in for that 50th anniversary special and watching all this 50th anniversary fanfare and excitement, I hope you enjoyed this. That's it for this week. Until we meet again, this is Brett Strong saying good journey.